Welcome back to BK Collectables. Today we are diving deep into the history of the penny, from its very first appearance in 1793 all the way to the modern coins we see today. The 1-cent coin is one of the most recognizable pieces of currency in the United States, and it has undergone massive changes over the years in design, metal composition, and even its role in everyday transactions. Whether you are a collector, an investor, or just someone interested in history, this video will give you everything you need to know about the evolution of the penny. And before we get started, make sure to subscribe to BK Collectables so you do not miss any of our future coin collecting videos. Let's begin in 1793, the year the first United States pennies were struck at the Philadelphia Mint. The very first 1-cent coin was the flowing hair large cent, which featured a portrait of Lady Liberty with her hair flowing behind her. On the reverse, it had a simple chain with 15 links, symbolizing the unity of the 15 states at the time. However, the chain design was controversial because some people thought it resembled the chains of slavery rather than unity. Because of this, it was quickly replaced with the wreath sent later that same year, which featured a more decorative wreath on the reverse. Just a year later, in 1794, the design changed again. This time, the Liberty Cap large cent was introduced. It still featured Lady Liberty, but now with a soft cap, a symbol of freedom inspired by ancient Rome. This design would be used until 1808, when the classic head large cent was introduced. The classic head design gave Liberty a more youthful appearance and was struck from a purer copper than previous issues. Then in 1816, the United States Mint introduced the coronet head large cent, sometimes called the matron head cent. This coin featured a more mature Lady Liberty and would remain in circulation for decades with minor design modifications. In 1839, the braided hair large cent was released, showing a more refined portrait of Liberty. By the time this coin was being struck, large cents were starting to become unpopular due to their size and weight. This brings us to 1857, a pivotal year in the history of the penny. The United States Mint discontinued large cents and introduced the Flying Eagle cent, the first small cent ever produced. This new design featured a bold eagle in flight and was struck in a copper-nickel alloy instead of pure copper. However, this design was difficult to strike properly, and after only 2 years it was replaced. In 1859, the Mint released the Indian head cent, which would go on to become one of the most beloved pennies in American history. Designed by James B. Longacre, this coin featured a portrait of Liberty wearing a Native American headdress. Though the design was controversial at the time, the Indian head cent remained in production for 50 years, finally ending in 1909. 1909 was a landmark year because it marked the debut of the Lincoln wheat cent, also known as the wheat penny. For the first time in United States history, a real person was featured on a circulating coin. The Lincoln cent was released to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the obverse featured Lincoln's profile, while the reverse displayed 2 wheat stalks. One of the most famous varieties of this coin is the 1909 SVDB Lincoln cent, which is highly sought after because of the prominent initials VDB on the reverse and the low mintage of the San Francisco Mint version. The Lincoln wheat cent continued to be produced until 1958, but during this time there were some interesting changes. In 1943, due to World War II, the Mint temporarily changed the penny's composition to zinc-coated steel to conserve copper for the war effort. The 1943 steel cent is an iconic piece of wartime history. However, a few pennies were mistakenly struck in copper that year, creating the famous and extremely rare 1943 copper penny, one of the most valuable era coins ever discovered. Another fascinating era from this time period is the 1944 steel cent, which occurred when steel planchets were accidentally used in early production runs. These coins are even rarer than the 1943 copper penny and can be worth a fortune if found in high grades. After the war, the wheat penny returned to its traditional bronze composition until its final year in 1958. The following year, in 1959, the reverse of the Lincoln cent was redesigned to feature the Lincoln Memorial, celebrating the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. This new design, created by Frank Gasparro, remained on the penny for nearly 50 years. During this time, another major composition change took place. In 1982, rising copper prices led the United States Mint to change the penny's metal content. Instead of being made mostly of copper, pennies were now produced with a zinc core and a thin copper plating. This change meant that pennies became much lighter. Because of this transition, there are both 1982 copper pennies and 1982 zinc pennies, which collectors often search for. One of the most famous Lincoln cent errors is the 1955 double die penny, which features a dramatic doubling of the date and lettering on the obverse. This coin is a favorite among collectors due to its striking error and historical significance. Then, in 2009, the United States Mint released a special series of pennies to celebrate the bicentennial of Lincoln's birth. These pennies featured 4 different reverse designs, each depicting a different stage of Lincoln's life, from his childhood in Kentucky to his presidency in Washington, D.C. Finally, in 2010, the Lincoln cent received another major redesign. The Lincoln Memorial reverse was replaced with the shield cent, which is still in circulation today. The shield design represents Lincoln's preservation of the Union during the Civil War. There have been many discussions about whether the penny should continue to be produced. Some argue that it costs more to make than its face value, while others believe that it remains an important part of American culture. For now, the penny remains in circulation, but its future is uncertain. Many argue that it no longer serves a practical purpose, as its buying power has dwindled and production costs now exceed its face value. It costs the United States Mint more than 3.5 cents to make each penny, leading some to call for its elimination, much like Canada did in 2012. Supporters, however, see the penny as a symbol of American history and fear that removing it could lead to unintended consequences, like price-rounding concerns. Charities also rely on penny donations, making its removal a potential loss for fundraising efforts. For now, the penny remains in circulation, but its fate is unclear. Will it continue as a lasting piece of American culture, or will it eventually disappear? Only time will tell. And that brings us to today. The penny has gone through countless changes over the last 230 years, reflecting the history and values of the United States. Whether you are searching for a rare 1909 SVB Lincoln cent, a 1943 copper penny, or even a simple 1955 double die Lincoln cent, every penny tells a story. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the history of the penny, make sure to like this video and subscribe to BK Collectables for more numismatic content. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.